Hello, my name is True Demon, and I'm the Devil's Stockbroker. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch this video. Before we begin, please understand I'm not a financial advisor, and none of the following content is financial advice. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Trading stock carries inherent risk, and you should always respect and understand your own personal risks when considering any investment. Please don't take what I say as gospel, and please do not trade based on the information that I receive and share through my content. Thank you so much, and have a hell of a time in the stock market. Let's go take a look at some of our other plays and just see what else is going on. ATER is doing pretty good. I was looking to see this trend start to turn around. If you were actually here on if you were here in the trading floor yesterday when ATER was making its surge, we actually got a really nice we caught a nice dip. A lot of us, myself included, sold our weeklies that I was holding weeklies for this Friday. So we sold it pretty close to the end of the day while the price was moving up, and uh, ended up picking up some more calls and rolling them out at the end of the day when the dip happened. So if you were here in Hell's Trading Floor, give a shout out here in the YouTube chat and let everybody know how your trades are working out for you. But right now, ATER is looking pretty strong. And we're currently on the 2-hour chart. Let's break it down to the 5-minute and see where we're at. Setting up a nice trend. This is what ATER likes to do. It'll consolidate down, and then it'll start to set up an ascending trend. And then once it hits another resistance level, it breaks through. So we'll see if ATER is going to set up for its next leg up. With any luck, in the next by the next couple of weeks, ATER will have set itself up to extend past $7, at which point there will be enough calls in the money, I think, to trigger the gamma squeeze. I've been looking at these trends to see if ATER can continue to break shorts of their convictions. Okay. So I'm setting up a handful of channels because I've noticed I just noticed this while I was looking at ATER. The when it makes these big legs up and it bounces off of these supports, it'll break below it and enter into it's basically an ascending support. You could say it's a narrowing ascending triangle, but I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. But anyway, ATER made its first leg up here, and it bounced around for a while in consolidation before it broke down below, and it set up a new ascending support. And it did the same thing here, broke down, and then set up a new support, and it respected this trend line. Now here it's broken up, consolidated, bounced, consolidated, and broke down both through both of these levels, and now it's setting up a new ascending support. So I'm looking to see what ATER does in response to this. This is kind of what I'm looking for as far as ATER's history, for it to repeat. If ATER breaks up and out through both of these levels the same way that it did back here in August, September, then maybe we'll get a run in similar fashion. And looking back at ATER all the way back into last year, back in 2 years ago actually, back in 2020, it was kind of a similar story. Although this was the January squeeze, so this was a pretty extraordinary circumstance. ATER was moving with a lot of the other meme stocks. It had some natural support going for it, but late January, February, when all the other meme stocks were taking off, is when it really got going. So that was a pretty extraordinary circumstance for ATER. So I'm not sure that we'll get that same kind of monumental movement in the price, but we can always hope. Stock market sounds corrupt as fuck. Yes, it does. The stock market is corrupt. The whole financial industry really is, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. There's not a whole lot that can be done about it, but maybe if maybe if enough retailers with the right attitude and a well-adjusted moral compass, we'll say, were able to take enough money and control out of the hands of Wall Street, then maybe things might change a little bit. But anyway, so ATER is set up really nicely. I want to show the gamma squeeze chart as well. And in the
Nice.
meanwhile, I'll go over the short interest here. So ATER's short interest, very fun and interesting. So the short interest for ATER got really out of hand once the price moved up beyond $25 back here in January. And as far as ATER's free float, I do believe there was several instances of dilution, especially here at the top. The shorts really started covering after all that repeated dilution. But it was only very briefly during the squeeze. I think that quite a few of them got squeezed out rather than timing the top. But if you look at the overall trend, the green line is the shares short, whereas the orange line is the short interest percentage of free float. So I want to explain these lines a little bit because people often get them confused. So the free float is a dynamic number that does not change frequently, but anytime a company dilutes, the free float increases. So short interest divided by the free float is how you get this percentage. It's actually short interest divided by free float multiplied by 100, and you get this number. So if you're looking at the SI percentage of free float and all of a sudden the short interest just evaporates, if the SI percentage just disappears, like say that this dropped from 40% to 5%, but if there's still the same number of shares in the stock, then the short interest has not actually decreased. There's still the same number of shares sold short. What happens is the stock has been diluted by, say it was like if they multiplied their available shares by 2, then the short interest percent of free float would drop to 20%. From 40 to 20. It literally would cut it in half. So people see this and they panic and think, "Oh God, the short's covered!" And how did they do it? The price is going up, and you have to do a little bit of math. So I pay more attention to the estimated short interest rather than percentage of free float. Although the percentage of free float is a good thing to look at, just to see how much of the tradable shares are occupied by shorts. This is a good indicator of squeeze potential, but looking at the short interest and its trend shows you how many shorts are continuing to increase their positions, which is likely to continue as the volume, volatility, and the price increase. Let's also take note that ATER is on the threshold list, and there's been a huge amount of security lending volume as of late. I'll go ahead and reduce this down so that we're only looking at the recent history. So the biggest amount of lending, shorts leveraging their positions and getting in and out and dancing around. And honestly, I think that a lot of it is market makers. There's a great deal of it that's market makers. And the reason why I say that is because most of the shares that are borrowed are actually not sold short. If you look at the short interest, it's 10.9 million, but the shares on loan are 19 million. Those 9 million additional shares are I'm sorry, it's like 8.1 million shares that are on loan more than the short interest. It's probably because market makers are playing around with those shares. Market makers are probably dealing with, market makers are most likely moving in and out of positions in order to get the stock off of the threshold list and trying to cover failures to deliver. And it's extremely difficult for them to do in these circumstances because retail keeps buying all of the shares and the call chain is continuously increasing. So now I'm going to show you guys the short squeeze chart. This is actually more like a gamma squeeze indicator. This is the number of this is the call chain for ATER based on the percentage of the float which would be in the money at a given strike price. So currently we're trading at $5.24. So everything at $5 and below is in the money. That puts us at 19% of the float in the money. If the stock were to trade up at $7.50, which is where this marker is, then the percentage of float in the money would increase all the way to 52%. This would create a supply crisis in the stock. So this is an extremely important chart, but in order to give you a little bit more granular look at it, it's a good idea to look at the heat map that shows you the number of open interest based on the strike price. So this is also from our Scourge bot, and you can see where most of the call chain is placed. So the biggest amount is here at 7.5. This is this is where most of the money is at. Now, people are rolling into calls every single week continuously. They've been jumping into positions um, and rolling out to the next week continuously in anticipation that the squeeze might happen. This is why I feel like weeklies are a really dangerous trap for retail, because you end up just giving so much liquidity to the market maker, and they can end up using it against us. So that's why if I'm playing calls, I choose quarterlies, and I'll usually even go a week beyond them, because that way I'm outside of the expiration. And if they do pin the price for whatever reason, then I can anticipate any shares that were in the money if the buying needs to take place in order to cover those shares a week in the next 2 trading days. That's called T2 settlement. Then I give myself an additional week for that buying to occur and the price to increase and possibly put my calls in the money. So rather than buying these 520s, I'll roll out to a week beyond that and buy these 527s. So that's kind of how I look at this heat map, and I use it to my advantage. Crowd mentality, the herd mentality, is what often kills retail in playing in the stock market. Unfortunately, we can't all be right and we can't all make money. But if we educate ourselves and we give ourselves the best chance, and we're all of the same mind and outlook on a stock, then we give ourselves the best chance of success. Um, let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, it's also worth mentioning that 80% of the options chain is in calls for ATER. So overwhelmingly bullish for ATER. So ATER is moving up to 525. It looks like it's trying to beat that resistance. Currently, I think it's about to form this pennant, but it might try to break out. Would be nice if it broke out at the end of the day, but I'm expecting it to make its move after hours, to be honest with you.